Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We got a loaded show. We got 3 guests today, fellas. So there's going to be a lot going on today. But before we get to any of that, I thought that maybe we could take a look at recruiting, Jerry.
Yeah, so Texas has begun setting official visits with 2027 prospects. Right on track, on schedule. They were on the road in January, most of January, seeing guys, especially after the portal window slowed down. Texas was around the country, California to Florida, and any stops in between, up to Jersey, you name it, they were there. Pennsylvania, Ohio. The Texas staff was out everywhere, Illinois. So they went out and made some evaluations. They made over 30 new offers in the month of January and through the first couple of days of February. I think it's about 35 is the exact, maybe 36, the exact number. So naturally, they've begun setting the official visits in June. So you see here, there's 3 Texas commits that have official visits set. I'll go through those. But June 5th through 7th is Peyton Miller, the center from Anna, who obviously has been on campus a number of times as a top target at center for Texas. Jeremiah Douglas, receiver from Crandall, who's committed to Vanderbilt. He didn't show up for junior day, didn't attend junior day January 17th, which was kind of noted by us. But Chris Jackson's been through that school as much as he can per NCAA rules. Texas likes Jeremiah Douglas. He did schedule an official visit for June 5th through 7th, but he does remain committed to Vanderbilt. Then the edge commit Cameron Hall from Mansfield Summit. June 12th, 14th. I think that could be a heavy offensive line weekend too. Ishmael Kamara out of Gilmer scheduled to be in. Then the speedy corner, Montre Jackson out of Lakeview Centennial, and Garland, who's ran 10.39, I believe, best in the 100. Track season's about to start now that maybe hopefully the cold freezing weather's behind us. Then June 19th, 2 commitments. Easton Royal, wide receiver, no introduction there out of Brother Martin, one of the fastest players, one of the top wide receivers in the country. And then Carnell Greedy James, the defensive back, and I listed him as a DB because he plays corner, he plays safety, he kind of plays all over the place, and I think it kind of remains to be seen where he plays at the next level. But he's out of Manville High down in the Alvin area. We're kind of off 288, where it feeds into the Fort Bend ISD right there, backs up to that Alvin Manville line. Carnell James. Then on 26 through 28, Jaden Nelson, a linebacker edge from Langham Creek. Now, this is the beginning of the list. As you guys know, this list will grow to 40-plus, maybe into the low 50s. We expect a lot more of these visitors to start releasing their dates coming up. I think we'll see a couple of 12th through 14th OLs soon potentially announce their plans, and a number of other guys. Obviously, I'll take all your questions on those guys, whether it's here or on TexasFootball.com. We have a Texas official visits thread. So if you want to get some questions in on guys, just go over to OnTexasFootball.com and ask away. Myself, CJ, we're there all the time.
I was going to say this, Jerry. There are a number of unofficial visitors coming in the month of March, but there are no official visitors coming in March. Who are some of the guys that you know that are set to come in March unofficially?
Joaquin Gouda, the downhill hammer inside linebacker in Atlanta area that Texas offered in January. He's coming in March 10th. I believe CJ put that one out yesterday. Honor Falave Johnson, the speedy safety, who is also plays wide receiver and running back down in the San Diego area. Will Muschamp, Johnny Nansen, multiple staff members went to see him. Blake Gideon, I believe. No, Blake Gideon was not there yet. So it was Muschamp and Nansen and Kenny Baker were making those rounds. He's coming in March 26th. We talked about on recruiting breakdown yesterday, but there's the big visit dates weekends are kind of formed already. April 18th is your spring game weekend. So you're going to have a lot of guys who aren't in major track meets that Texas wants to get on campus will get on campus. And I said this yesterday on recruiting breakdown. Brandon Baker's first visit to Texas was for a spring game. There's been a number of others. Having a spring game back is big for recruiting purposes. I will say that because parents get to sit with prospect parents at those games as much as kids and kids. So those are big recruiting days. That March 28th weekend that Falave Johnson is coming, I think that's going to be a big weekend. They're trying to get a lot of out-of-state guys too as well. Couple options there. And then guys will be trickling through around their spring break, right? But they got to watch it because Texas spring break, obviously there won't be any visitors that week, which is March 16th through 21st, I believe. So maybe the week before that, which the Gouda, the linebacker from Georgia, who's one of the hardest hitters in the country, he's coming in March 10th. I think you'll see some kids kind of trickle in. They'll make some runs during their spring break and go see some places. That's what's been happening in recent years. So there's visitors there. I'll say the other thing about the official visit list is that's of note to me. The past few years, Sark has been, he's always right, late, stays on the guys all the way through, right? So they've always used the last couple of weekends in June as their big official visit weekends. They're taking a little different path this year. You have some big guys coming in early, middle of the month. They're gonna have them through all 4 weeks. And it wouldn't shock me if the first 3 weeks were their biggest official visit weekends. I think there's getting ahead of this. The recruiting's always changing. NIL decisions are being made earlier. We talked about yesterday on Recruiting Breakdown as well that, one thing you hear from parents now we're 4 years into these June OVs is by the last weekend in June, they're like, we're tired. This process was fun, but we're tired. We have jobs. We're missing work. It's a fun process. It's great, but it is a tiring process. And I think that's maybe last into this discussion, but I think the process keeps moving forward faster and faster and faster. I think you're going to see more NIL deals, decisions being made a little earlier potentially. It looks like Texas is planning that a little bit more than they have in recent years.
Well, one of those commitments that went ahead and made his decision, JT Geraci, we spoke to yesterday. Jerry, we're going to release that video later today. A young man out of New Jersey High School, Don Bosco Prep. Very impressive young man. I want to say that. I'm sure he's going to be coming down for a visit here in the spring as well. But look, Texas is definitely moving they're moving the timeline forward slightly. I don't think Sark is ever going to go whole hog into early recruiting like Matt Graham did. But ever so slightly, they are upping the timeline. And I do think that's important as we kind of follow it professionally. All right, we got a special guest coming on next. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. Every Wednesday's Coffee and Football brought to you by our friend Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, and think you might be due compensation, make sure you reach out to Adam and his firm for a free, no strings attached consultation. No strings attached. Just reach out for a consultation. They'll let you know what they think and where you might want to go with your potential suit. Again, that's loweylawfirm.com. He's been helping injured Texans for more than 20 years. University of Texas Law School grad, Adam Lowy. Thank you very much for your sponsorship of Wednesday mornings, Coffee and Football. All right, this next guest of ours coming in is a Longhorn national champion. Some people, Ted, it's Ted Coy. He needs no introduction to me. I've known him for 20, 25 years now. Ted, welcome in. I have to say this. The reason we're bringing you on is because you were in the same backfield with someone we talked about a little bit yesterday, and that's Chris Gilbert, the former Texas running back who passed away earlier this week. We wanted to get you on and just get your thoughts on Chris Gilbert, but welcome in this morning.
Bobby, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be a part of your program. Yes, it's kind of a sad, happy time. It's sad to lose a friend, first of all, in Chris Gilbert, and then it's sad to lose such an icon as far as a University of Texas football player. And it's always a joy to talk about Chris. Such a gentleman to begin with, a very class person, and Chris was just. He was a natural athlete, but he utilized his techniques. And if you ever watch any films or videos of Chris, he was such a smooth runner, just kind of made it look easy when it really wasn't.
Yeah, I was talking to Les Koenig yesterday, former Longhorn player, captain of the 79 team, and then came back and was a coach. And he told me that he played at Memorial with Chris's brother. And he said that Chris had a construction company and actually employed some former Longhorn players during the summer, and he was just Longhorn through and through. What are your recollections of him as a person and as a guy behind the scenes?
First and foremost, Chris came out of Spring Branch High School as a star. Back in those days, we didn't have the star ratings, but no question he would have been the top. He would have been a 5-star on today's standard. But he was totally unaffected by that. And I remember meeting him when I came in as a freshman. He was a sophomore and had already established himself in college football. He was his first year on varsity was over 1,000 yards rusher. And so, I didn't know Chris, but at that time, I thought, okay, here's a guy that's going to be the high and mighty. No, he was as down to earth and as humble, and all through his career. And, he was All-American, College Football Hall of Fame, just all of the top categories and Chris was totally unaffected by that, just was a genuine person. Even in a game, even before a game, a lot of times, players get all pumped up and all. Chris was the same before the game, during the game, after the game. I remember looking, in those days we huddled up and I would look over at Chris and Chris would have the same expression that he had back on Wednesday. He took it all in stride, but was so consistent with what he did, not only on the field, but in life in general.
Yeah, I know you were with him when he received that Lifetime Achievement Award with the Doak Walker committee. That was awesome. He's the first running back in college football history to rush for 1,000 yards in 3 consecutive seasons. Just did a lot for Longhorns. Ted, you were part of a backfield, though, with him at Texas that issued in the wishbone attack. What was that like? He went from being the guy to one of the guys, I guess, in the backfield, but he had to let that happen and ended up making history in the process.
Bobby, you bring up a very, very good point, because Chris, we were running the I formation as most college teams were in those days. And Chris was 1,000-yard gainer his sophomore year. And let me insert, back in those days, freshmen could not play on the varsity. So a varsity player had 3 years playing varsity football. So Chris was 1,000-yard rusher his sophomore year, 1,000 his junior year. Well, then we had an unusual situation. The fullback, Linus Bear, was graduating, going into what would be Chris's senior year. And then we had, who's going to replace him? We had me as a sophomore going into my junior year that I had worked as a fullback and as the tailback. And then we had this freshman kid coming off the freshman team named Steve Wooster. So who's going to be the fullback in the I formation? And so that's when Coach Emory Ballard came up and said, look, let's put all these guys in the backfield. Only came up with the wishbone, which we had the 3 running backs. Well, you bring up a good point, Bobby, that for Chris, here he comes 1,000 yards. Now, wait a minute. He's going to be one of 3 running backs, but totally unaffected by that. And also that the wishbone required him to be a blocker. And he adapted well to that, did an excellent job. When we would run the wishbone to the left, I was the right halfback. Chris was my lead blocker. And I never had any doubt that he wasn't going to get his block. So I look at that scenario and think, there's a lot of reasons he could have been a little bit miffed by going to share his glory, but he got his 1,000 yards and was totally unaffected by that. Great team man.
Yeah. Ted, you're a long time, you're not just a former football player. You are a long time burnt orange zealot, I would say. Like every time I go to practice, you're out there. You love being part of the team or with the team and seeing those guys practice. Last 5 years under Steve Sarkisian have been, after that first year, it seems like it just keeps building and building and building. Just asking you and stepping away for a little bit, what do you think of the job Coach Sarkisian's done over the last couple of years?
Excellent, admirable. As you say, Bobby, I get Coach Sarkisian is very, very kind to let me come to the practices. I enjoyed it from really 2 aspects. One is I get to see the kids develop, not just the young ones, but even the veterans. In football, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And so it's always fun for me to stand there and watch how each of the players over time is developing. And then the other thing I like about it is during the season, I get to see the game plan, offense, defense being put in, and then I go to the game and see it unfold on that. But it, to me, is so remarkable what Coach Sarkisian is doing. He first of all understands what a champion looks like. He understands what a champion team acts like, and so he builds his teams according to that. And it's been really enjoyable for me to see the team concept coming together. He's doing a remarkable job, and I really appreciate what he's doing.
You know Archie Manning from before, were your days in the pros together, right? You knew, so you know Arch's grandfather. What do you think of Arch Manning and all he's done, Ted?
Arch is he is a remarkable young man. He's very talented. I'm going to throw the word humble out. He's every day he goes to work, it's a new day, and he understands that. And I think a lot of that comes from his background because, as you said, Archie and I go way back. I often when I see Archie, I remind him when I was with the Bills, and of course he was with the Saints, and the Bills came down to New Orleans, and Archie totally mistreated us, and so I bring that up a lot, and Archie's very humble reply is, well, that was a long time ago. So, but I think a lot of Arch's background feeds into his realization that, you never have to, you never stop working. You never reach a plateau. And so he's just a remarkable young man to watch as he prepares in practice. I can't say there's a player out there that's not given more than Arch, and that's his makeup.
Hey, Ted, I got to ask you, because on these shows, a lot of times when we have guests, we talk about the family tree of athletics. And I've known you for a while, and I've never talked to you about your father. So obviously played in Major League Baseball, played football and baseball at the University of Texas. He pulled off what's hard to do nowadays. But, were you all football growing up, or were you baseball in football as well, like your siblings and like your father was?
Well, you're right. My dad was he was a natural athlete. He in his time, baseball was way ahead of pro football, so he went that route. I asked him later in life. I said, "Dad, what would you do coming along now?" And he said, "Well, I'd probably go football." And so, but I say all that to say, growing up as kids, we played all the sports. Played football in the football season, basketball, baseball. But the thing I really appreciated now as an old man looking back that I appreciated about my dad is he put no pressure on us. If we wanted to play, he was going to support us. And if we didn't want to play, and when I say we, my brother and my sister, and so we all played sports, but he was our dad and not our coach. And I've talked to, flipping over now to Archie Manning, and Archie will tell you publicly and privately, he was his two sons' dad and not their coach. And now with Arch, he's his granddad and not his coach. And so that's one thing I appreciated about my dad is that he encouraged us, but he left it up to us.
And by the way, for the chat that doesn't know, his father was teammates with Babe Ruth. Yeah, I think your father. I've never talked to anybody whose father or anybody else played with Babe Ruth. That's unbelievable to me, Ted. I don't know if you have a story, but that's crazy when the man.
Well, real quick story. I remember asking my dad. I said, "Gosh, it must have been great talking and playing with Babe Ruth as far as you're hitting." And my dad's response was, he said he was a terrible coach because he was so natural at it. All he would say is, "You just go up there and hit the ball. What else is there to do?" And so he was so good, so natural. He was a terrible coach. He didn't know the fundamentals of it. It just came naturally for him.
Isn't that amazing?
I love it. Hey, Ted, before we let you go, we'd be remiss if we did not ask you about the 69 national championship team. Is Texas looking pretty strong this coming year? Hopes for a national championship going into 2026. Obviously, that's tough sledding. But share a little bit of what you think the possibilities are with Texas this year and just your remembrances of that 69 national championship team that made y'all a championship team that this team maybe needs to carry forward in 2026?
Yeah, it's a good concept. Looking back with our '69 team, you got to be good to win a national championship. You got to have some fortunate breaks. You got to stay healthy, and then you got to have some breaks. You look every year at the national champion, and those three ingredients: they got to be good, they got to stay healthy for the most part, and they got to have some breaks. And so, as I look at the got to be good part of it, we've got some talent. We got some. The thing I like about what I see our talent is it's a working talent, and by that I mean every day you go out to practice. Those guys they're there to get better, for another day to get better, as they often say. And so I see that as a major ingredient. And then of course you got to just stay healthy. You got to be fortunate with that. But anyway, no predictions for me, but I have a smile on my face as I look forward to this next year.
All right. Thank you, Ted, so much. 1969 national champion. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on your former teammate, Chris Gilbert, as well.
Appreciate being a part of your program. Thank you.
All right. Hook 'em horns, Ted. Appreciate you, buddy. Later, man. All right. Thanks. Always got a smile on his face, Jerry. Anytime you see him.
I mean, is he the number one supporter of Texas football in his own way? I mean, as a former player, I'm not sure. I've never seen anybody as invested on a day-to-day basis.
When I used to go to practice all the time, right? When I was a student at Texas and worked for the team, and Frank Denius would be at every single practice he could make. And that's why then Frank was also very successful in business in life, and donated to make it the Denius practice fields because Frank liked the practice as much as he liked the games, I think. And I think Ted is similar in some of those instances. He likes the process as much as he likes the payoff of a game. And so anytime you and I go to practice, just about, Ted Coy's there. He's riding in on a motorcycle, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, he goes to
fat Harley Davidson burnt orange hog, I think it is.
And he goes to
Harley,
almost every away game for many, many years.
Yeah.
If you go to a Texas game on the road, he'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Hey, we will have another national champion, former Longhorn national champion, coming up here in about 5 minutes. Tony Hills of the 2005 team will join us as well. Blake, what do we got next, my man?
Well, first, before we get to anything, I need Jerry to tell us about Ridge Wallet this morning.
I can do that. The one of the best products on the market and one of the safest and good for your back too. Look, remember those giant crusty leather bricks that used to fall apart? Yeah, that was your wallet in your back right or left pocket. The other side hurt wherever you wore it if you're driving. Did your back hurt because you're sitting uneven? Yeah, you remember those days. No more. What is Ridge Wallet? It's a unique, slim, modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash, made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. Fits right in that front pocket. Over 50 colors and styles to choose from, including that UT wallet. All Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. You want some peace of mind? Ridge wallets have RFID blocking technology, keeping you safe from digital pickpocketers. There's over 100,000 five-star reviews, and that number is fast growing. Losing your wallet is the absolute worst. But with the Ridge AirTag attachment, you'll always know exactly where it is before panic mode kicks in. Man, we all know that feeling when you lose your wallet. Sometimes you lose it to your wife and you never know where it goes, right? Ridge isn't just about wallets. They create premium everyday carry essentials like key cases, suitcases, and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping and a 99-day free risk trial and a lifetime warranty on all their products. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using code ONTexas at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use that code ONTexas, and you're all set. You will be extremely happy with the Ridge wallet.
Good stuff there. All right, thank you, Jerry. And I am going to tell everyone about one of our other sponsors. That's Ultra Pouches. And one thing I didn't expect when they sent Ultra Pouches to me was how dialed in my focus was going to feel. It's not jittery. It's not a spike. It's just this calm, steady flow state. Ultra is zero nicotine. It's caffeine free. It's powered by natural nootropics. And what's wild is 90% of users report noticeable improvements in focus, and I definitely get why. The energy is smooth, my memory feels sharper, my mood stays even. It doesn't matter if I'm working, driving, doing coffee and football, or just trying to lock in and get stuff done. It doesn't take over your headspace. It just helps you stay present and productive. It's the same pouch experience I like. I get the flavor, the burn, the kick. It's just cleaner and more controlled. If you want focus without the buzz or crash, Ultra is it. And Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch. New customers get 15% off with code ONTexas at takeultra.com. That's takeultra.com, code ONTexas. And when they ask where you heard about them, tell them that On Texas Football sent you.
Hey, Blake, I got to read one thing real quick. You know, when you read a Wikipedia of somebody, you're always like, wow, that was impressive. Ted's father, Ernie Coy Jr., for those that don't know. Here's what his wiki page says. Was a Major League Baseball player, all Southwest Conference in football and baseball player at the University of Texas. Teammate of Babe Ruth and once defeated Jesse Owens in the 100-yard dash. Does it get any more impressive? Played with Babe Ruth, beat Jesse Owens in a race. I guess he was a pretty gifted athlete.
I'm thinking so.
Wow.
Well, we got Tony Hills coming in just a moment, as Bobby mentioned, but let's do a super chat real quick. This one from Rust, I guess. I'm going to call you Rust. Bobby and Jerry, can we get a recruiting throwback segment? Enjoy hearing all of the old recruiting stories from y'all.
Absolutely could do that. Jerry, you have one that's top of mind right now you want to pass along?
Put him on the spot.
What do you got one?
Well, I haven't a lot, but one that just came to mind is I'll just take y'all back to VY. But I'm sure Bobby was at this game when they played North Shore in the Astrodome, and not only was unbelievable quarterback, but played safety. Yeah. And he was part of, I believe, the winning tackle on that game, because North Shore on 4th and 20 ran a lead play for whatever reason with the season on the line. And so Vince Young playing safety in that game was one for me. Look, there's so many stories. So many guys you can talk about, so many NFL players. You guys bring the questions and it'll jog my memory. And it's amazing how many of the most talented guys we saw that never made it, like Ben Gay at Spring, the running back. So there's the great stories. There's the questions there's the stories of guys that were great talents that didn't make it. Throw anything at us. I'm sure. Well, maybe Tony. Do we have a Tony Hills recruiting story?
I was about to say, speaking of great stories, I bet a guy that has some is Mr. Tony Hills. Good morning.
Hey, what's happening, family? It is the smooth voice of my man Blake Monroe today. Real smooth century. Let me tell you something, Blake. You and other men's women are going to get in trouble if you don't stop talking like that, bro. I'm telling you right now. Miss Monroe is not going to have it. I'm telling you, she going to make you stop doing the show, bro. You better do something about that, man.
That's why we tuck him away up in Comanche, Texas.
There you go.
They can't go to the big city with so many people.
There you go. It'd be like somebody seeing Elvis for the first time.
That was overrated. Saw him last year.
Tony, question for you. Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
Michael Dixon, Byron Murphy, and Quandre Diggs now get to call themselves Super Bowl champs.
Man.
Quite the feat for those guys. What's it feel like in that moment to win a Super Bowl?
Man, I think the feeling is indescribable. Obviously, there's an immense amount of elation in the moment. There's joy, there's happiness. For some, there's an immense amount of emotion from all of the hard work and the sacrifice and the dedication that you put in. For the older players that might have been in the league for a while and never knew if they were going to get to the pinnacle of the sport, much less alone win it, I can only imagine what they're thinking about. But I think all of the reflection comes in when all of the hoopla is down and you sit back and realize that this is something that you have been a part of and you've participated in, that quite frankly, only 1% of the world gets to experience, right? And so when you look at it from that standpoint, for me personally, I'm able to reflect on, those moments with my teammates and celebrating, but also the confidence that it gives you to do other things, right? To know that when you had, ups and downs, ebbs and flows, always remember that, you're the 1% of the 1%. And that can give you some immense amount of confidence in everything that you do in life. But keeping it in the sports space, man, it's a joyful feeling.
I don't know why I just thought about this, Tony. We've talked to you about a lot of players over the last year on this. We've never talked to you about Byron Murphy.
Beast.
As a former 10-year NFL offensive lineman, what are your thoughts on Byron Murphy?
I mean, we all saw his immense talent, man. This guy's an athlete in the middle of the offensive line. I won't. It's always interesting when you say names, people automatically think of the feet of that particular name and say, "Oh my gosh, I don't know about that." But like, listen to what I'm saying. When you think about a defensive lineman that is extremely athletic, that can hold the point of attack in the run game, right? That can disrupt things, right? To me, it's Warren Sapish. Like he was one of the ones where you took that athleticism. He was able to play both the run and the pass, and also get after the pass rushes, get after the quarterback as well in the pass rush. Byron has proven that he can do all of that, right? And so you saw it. You saw it at Texas. Him playing with Sweat. Some of the plays that he made, man, like 4th and inches, 3rd and inches, like. Those plays don't just happen. There's an immense amount of talent that's there. There's an immense amount of work ethic, understanding the moment, the situation, technique. He was already polished, which is why he was a 1st-round pick. So when you put somebody like that in the middle of a Seahawks defense that's already dominant with the DeMarcus Lawrence of the world and the Halls and, the what they call themselves now, the dark side, right, with the secondary. I mean, I don't believe too many people expected the outcome to be different. Maybe the score, but not the outcome. And Byron is one of the reasons why.
Mike McDonald, the coach for the Seahawks, said that if you can play too high safety, split safety look, basically, that it gives you a tremendous amount of value and advantage. Yeah. And he basically said it's because of our defensive tackles that we're able to do that, because they're able to gap multiple gaps at a time or control multiple gaps at a time. That obviously points to the importance of a guy like Byron Murphy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the reality is that when you have a too high safety, it limits the amount of route concepts that an offense can run. Right, because you have to look at it. It's hard for us to take deep shots on the outside because both safeties can cover over the top. It's hard for us to do anything over the middle because everything is in front of them. And so now you usually, when you have a too high safety as an offense, you want to attack that in a run game. But if your offensive line can't get movement on the down lineman, there is no run game. Right. So that definitely speaks to Byron and the other guys in that space. Like, if you can stop the run with a front seven, it's going to be a long day for an offense. You usually want to have the run game dominant to bring the safety down so that it opens up passing concepts and deep shots down the field.
Hey, Tony, go ahead, Bobby. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we were talking right before you came on. There was a super chat about fun recruiting stories. I got to ask, I don't know that you and I have ever talked about your fun recruiting stories. I know it ended difficultly for you at the end of high school career, but up until then, what was your recruitment like, and how has it changed over the years, in your opinion?
I mean, well, the first change is nobody came to my house with a bag of money. Oh, that would have been a great recruiting story, right? I'm about to change your life, son. All you got to do is sign on the dotted line. Like, oh, the options, right? But no, I think, a fun recruiting story. So my mom is a very spiritual woman. Like, when she prays, it's like God hears her, right? And so I remember when Nick Saban was at LSU, and he came and sat in my house, and he gave his spiel and things like that. And, for me, I'm like, man, this is Nick Saban, LSU. I never even thought about, I've never left the state, much less alone, going to a whole different city. Like, this is cool, right? So I'm like, hey, Mom, all right. So he leaves. I'm like, Mom, what do you think? And she was going to the kitchen. She didn't even look back at me, y'all. Just imagine a woman walking away after the person leaves. And I'm like, Mom, what do you think? You're not going. Like, what? Like, what? She said, God told me that man's lying. I said, what? What are you talking about? I said, so God just came down. Like, so I'm sitting in the same room with you. So he ain't tell me about what my potential future is. He told you that this guy, guys, I kid you not. I believe it was like the next month or the second month of that conversation. Nick Saban left LSU to go coach at Alabama.
Or Miami.
NFL, yeah.
Yeah. He left LSU to go to was it Miami or Alabama? It was one of
Dolphins first.
the Dolphins first. Yeah. So he went to go coach professional. So I was like, the reason why I say that's fun is because it was like, one, I was wrong, and I learned never to doubt Mary Magdalene ever again. That was two. But two, man, it just goes to show you the transition that happens in college football from a multitude of angles and ways. And being around that, man, it prepared me for life. Like, understanding that, yes, college is an amazing opportunity, but don't mistake it. It is a business, right? So I learned a business lesson early on, and it ended up working out for me. I went to the best university in the world. So it was pretty cool.
What are the odds that Mac Brown was on the phone with your mom 10 minutes before that in-home visit?
I tell you this, when he came and spoke to us, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. She was like, this is where you go. This is where you go. And so it just goes to show you the type of man that Mac is. Bruce Chambers, Coach Brewster was there as a recruit for me. And then my guy of guys, man, Coach Mac McQuarter, that's my guy, man. And so, like, just the whole process, I don't know if you can pin it down to just one story, the whole process. And then my situation was a little different, man. And I didn't even know if I would, walk normally again, much less alone play football. So just the ability to do that, the fact that Coach Brown saw something in me beyond sport, I wanted to reward that effort and that sacrifice that he did for that scholarship. And, I did the best that I could with the time that I was there.
Tony, let you go after this one, but a lot of guys transferred into Texas this past off season. I think, what was it, 19 transfers in?
That's crazy.
24 high school signees, 22 of them already there. Getting ready to go start spring practice March 9.
Yeah.
What's the focus between now and March 9 for those 43 newcomers?
I mean, really just getting acclimated in the system, learning your coaches, learning your teammates, understanding what the mission is, making sure that everybody is locked in, knowing your assignment and your alignment. I mean, there's a lot that has to go into this. That's a lot of turnover, guys. I don't even think you see that type of turnover in the NFL, right? But this is what college football is. And so, in my rants and raves oftentimes about, what the offense is doing, I do realize that, those guys are under an immense amount of pressure to be able to have these guys come in and, subsequently in a little bit over a month, get everybody to buy in. That's not an easy thing to do. And so if you're a high school guy, the thought process is just to get better every single day and to understand the landscape of what's going on, right? And I know that's a far and few between cry about what high school kids are thinking about these days, because everybody wants the clout and everybody wants to get to the proverbial bag. And I understand that. But what people don't realize is that, I heard Michael Irvin say this, and I agree. You as a young man that's getting ready to go into a space that's going to prepare you for the world and manhood, by not sticking out trials and tribulations and overcoming things and having that perseverance type of spirit, you are removing the cocooning process of doing the hard things. So hopefully these kids come in with the thought process that, look, man, I just want to get better every single day. I just want to get better. All of them, right? If you're a high school kid, you want to get better. You want to learn the system. If you're a guy that's coming in from a different school and you got a little bit of time in the space of playing college football, then the thought process is, how can I be impactful, right? Not only for myself and not only for the position that I play, but how can I be impactful for my teammates? How can I help my teammates get better, right? Because if you're able to help your teammates get better, then subsequently the team gets better. And then for the coaches, you got to figure out who your best guys are, right? And you got to figure out who the guys behind them are, because this is a game of depth. right? Injuries will take place, especially being in the SEC. Injuries will happen.
I lied a little bit on something. Okay. I said that was your last question. The next thing, we've learned some jersey numbers of players. When did you learn your jersey number at the University of Texas? And what did you think of that? Because we're going to talk about some freshmen got their jersey numbers yesterday. How did you get your jersey number? Do you even remember?
I remember. So this is what I remember. I remember being a tight end.
Yes, you started out tight end. Yeah, going
into the office, and then Mac McQuarter and Coach Brown said that they wanted me to transition to offensive line. That conversation went how it went, and then the next thing I know, I was with old Chip.
Oh, the equipment manager.
The equipment manager, Chip.
Yep.
My guy Chip, man. God bless him, man. And Chip's favorite word for me, he used to call me Big Daddy. He said, "Come on in here, Big Daddy. I'm gonna have some numbers for you, man. What you want to pick?" And we were talking. I was like, "Man, I don't know, man. I never played offensive line before." And then he was like, "Well, look, pick this one right here." So Chip is the reason that I picked 79. There's no other story other than I'll just go with this one.
Go with itself right there, Tony. That's how life happens sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes you just roll with it, man. You just got to roll with it, man. And listen, what an amazing role it was, man. We in the 4 years that I was there, not only did I meet some amazing people, have some amazing times, but we did some amazing things, man. And I tell you what, from 04 to 07, that campus was jumping. The city was on fire. I saw Texas gear at everywhere we played. Even in Nebraska, we saw people in Texas gear, man. It was crazy work. So
you were there at an amazing football, baseball, basketball. I mean, it was through the Vince Young, TJ Ford, base Houston Street, you guys, Colt. I mean, that was an amazing time.
Aggie pulling in championships, man, on the other side, on the diamond, bro. Like, we had swimmers that was killing it, the volleyball team. I mean, I'm saying, like, it wasn't just football. Like, Texas was jumping. Golfers was winning chips, man. I'm like, dude, like, we just win, bro. That's what we do, you know? So it was a great time.
Hey, Tony, last question I have for you is, if you handed out your first ever PFF grade, what would Will Campbell's have been in the Super Bowl?
Oh,
sorry. Speaking of LSU, you don't have to answer that.
That's tough, man. Because I'm a left tackle, and I've played against some pretty solid pass rushers, and haven't had the game that I wanted. So I'll say this. Look, anytime you got a guy coming into the NFL as a left tackle, dude, that's a tall task for you to ask him to block a perennial Pro Bowler. Not only a perennial Pro Bowler, but a dude that got double-digit years in the league and has been in a Pro Bowler over 50% of the time he's been there. Like, to not have help for this guy is like, I don't know if the game plan to me wasn't very thought out. If you thought that you were going to play one of the best defenses who has some of the most dominant pass rushers on the edge with a rookie, not just a tackle, but a rookie left side with no help, that was very arrogant. And I don't know if Josh McDaniel is just that arrogant. I don't know if he just doesn't like them that much, right? But I didn't like the game plan for New England. But I'll say this. The young fellow, he fought. He fought with all of the tools and the skill sets that he had, and he'll learn from it. He'll learn from it. And, listen, Vrabel is a hell of a coach. The Patriots are a heck of an organization. Those guys will be back, and they'll be back. They'll be older. They'll be more experienced. And I can only imagine what his offseason is going to look like. I can only imagine this guy's – listening to him, if he is who I believe him to be, I see this guy locked away in a garage gym, nobody hearing from him. And the next time you see him, everybody's going to be like, my God, who is this Will Campbell guy? Like, I truly believe he's going to really lock in and learn as much as he can from that and come back better. At least that's my hope for him moving forward. But the grade,
I'm joking. Don't answer that. I was totally joking.
I can't grade a rookie on a perennial Pro Bowler, bro.
There's two thoughts I have. One is that Jerry Hamilton will needle anybody. that makes me feel bad. And the second one is they should have picked Kelvin Banks. That's
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Tony, thanks a bunch, man. You have a good week. Hook my horns, man.
Welcome, man. Appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you. We mentioned those jersey numbers before we do the next set of reads. I want to mention a couple of those jersey numbers. Let's start with Derek Cooper, the freshman running back from South Florida, will be number 5. That's the same number as Trey Wisner, but maybe more importantly, it's the same number as one Bijan Robinson at one point. Smoke Matthews is going to be number 11. That is the cornerback out of North Carolina. What that means to me is Cade Phillips has got to change his number.
Yeah.
We're waiting to see what that number will be, but Smoke Matthews be number 11. Richard Wesley, number 99, and Hayward Howard, number 21, will be getting more of those numbers here as they become available to folks over the next couple of weeks and what have you. All right, before we go forward, need to say thank you to one of our key sponsors. That is Hollow Socks. They're lightweight, supportive, and unbelievably soft. They're 3 times warmer than wool and still lightweight. How do they do that? Well, they're alpaca socks built for the field. These are performance-grade socks made from ultra soft baby alpaca fibers, engineered for rugged conditions and designed to keep your feet dry, warm, and comfortable no matter where the day takes you. Hollow doesn't just make socks for the outdoors. They've engineered them for every activity. They're everyday socks. They're breathable for comfort, daily wear, travel, or downtime. They also have compression socks to keep your legs comfortable during travel or recovery on your everyday or every day on your feet. And they're also hunting socks designed to keep your legs and feet fresh after cold mornings and long sits in the field. For a limited time, Hollow Socks is having a buy 2 get 2 free sale. Head to hollowsocks.com today to check it out. That's hollowsocks.com for up to 50% off your order after your purchase. They'll ask you where you heard about them. You can show your support for our show by telling them that we sent you here at On Texas Football. Again, that's hollowsocks.com.
And Jerry, before we get to Coach Joyner, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Hayes City Store.
I can do that real quick. If you ever been to a restaurant that the first time you knew they were just special, Hayes City Store is one of those places. This is all true. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food, too. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, award-winning chicken fried steak, homemade desserts. All of it's absolutely delicious. All of it's also from scratch. They also have live music 6 nights a week with 50 beer taps, ice cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. There are 13 TVs alone in their ice house, which is perfect for game days. They'll be back before you know it, by the way. And they even have brunch served 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Sunday. Hayes City Store is also dog friendly. They also have a tree net for kids. No adults in the tree net. Join the folks out at Hayes City Store and bring your whole crew. For more information, check out the website at hayescitystoretx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
All right, Jerry, I'm going to let you bring in our next guest, but let you do the introduction.
Yeah, just Coach Coleman Joyner joins us today. He's the high school coach of Ian Gifford. Speaking of new jerseys, it's going to be a big jersey. This one's going to be a big jersey. Big Ian. Coach Joyner, thank you for joining us to kind of introduce Ian to the Texas family here in our On Texas Football chat.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to brag on him a little bit.
So you told me this story yesterday about the first time you saw Ian. So you got to kind of go over that story again for all the Texas fans here, because that was a good one.
Yeah, no. So I was the head football coach at Whitfield Academy, and I was introduced to Ian back when he was transitioning from 7th to 8th grade, and we were a smaller private school, so we're constantly getting students and athletes and different families inquiring about who we are and kind of the kind of school we are. So I get emails all the time. And I got an email after one of our summer workouts in June from Ian's mother. And she was it was very brief. It was, hey, my name's Yesenia, and my son, I'm looking for another school for him to go to. I want him in a better environment. I want him to make some better friends. Oh, and by the way, he plays football, and I see you're the football coach. And then she listed that I think at the time he was like 6'3",
350 pounds. And so I'm like, okay, imagining in my mind, I get everyone's parents think they're awesome and amazing. And so I'm wondering, is this one of those situations? But I invite her to come meet with me and my defensive coordinator that afternoon. And so I'm expecting just some kind of big, overweight middle schooler that I'm sure he's a superstar because he's 6'3", 300 pounds as a seventh grader, but who knows what he's going to be. And I meet them in the parking lot, and he steps out of their minivan, and I kid you not, I mean, he couldn't have been shorter than 6'5", 350 pounds, skinny ankles, one of the biggest humans I've ever seen as a seventh grader.
Yeah.
And it was from that point I looked at my defensive coordinator and I was like, I don't know what we got to do and how we got to figure this out. But they're going to love this place before we leave, or else both of us have been fired. And he turned out to be everything and more, if that was even possible from that moment. But he was still one of the biggest humans I've ever been around.
He lists right now, Coach, Arkansas's roster last year, he listed at 6'5", 387. You believe that those numbers?
You know, so 387 is heavy, but I know they work to try and get some weight off of him, but he's got to be at least 6'6" or 6'7". I mean, 6'5" is really cutting him short. And I'm sure you've seen him. I mean, his weight's distributed well. That I believe that he's still 380, but can move like a cat.
How did he end up at Arkansas originally? And by the way, he's from Georgia originally. You're from Georgia. Right. We didn't mention that at the outset. How did he end up at Arkansas in the first place, Coach?
Yeah, so from his freshman year on, we look at him, and I was the offensive coordinator as well, and so I'm fighting for like, all right, who wants to be his favorite? Does he like offense or defense? And so we always thought he was an offensive lineman, just the athleticism and the length that he had. My offensive line coach at the time was Cameron Bradfield, a former professional. He had some experience and really, obviously, the size, you can't teach that. But just his God-given abilities, we were like, this kid could play on Sundays at tackle. And so that was primarily what he was recruited as. But he's a football player and he loved playing defense. And so Sam Pittman, it was odd. Sam Pittman came in and recruited him as an O-lineman, but then when Sam came on, Coach Pittman came on campus, we just started talking, and he kind of had this idea of, you know what, we're in the SEC, we're moving to an odd man front. And it was at the time that Jordan Davis was playing at Georgia. And he goes, you know, we've talked as a staff, and we'd love to see if he'd be interested in playing defense. We know he plays defensive tackle for you guys. We'd like to offer him as a potential zero technique. And if it doesn't pan out, we know that he can slide over and play offensive line. And he was just – it was such a different opportunity and a new way that they were recruiting him than as opposed to everybody else. And I think that excited him. And Coach Pittman is a great guy and super relational. And I think he did a great job recruiting him. But I really think he was one of the only schools and probably the biggest program that offered him to play on defense. And it was that was what led him.
Defense, or preferred that idea of defense, at least to start off.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's good.
Hey, Coach, talked about his skill set, really, because we talked about it on the phone yesterday, but kind of talked about his skill set as a prospect, as a player from your guys' eyes.
Yeah, so, again, I know we talked about it yesterday. Usually guys at that size, you worry about foot speed and just quickness, and then you worry about balance and just their ability to stay on their feet when you're playing down there in the trenches. And that was something early on that we noticed was, one, he's extremely athletic. Again, skinnier ankles. He can dunk a basketball, can get his feet up and move and could run sideline to sideline. That was what sort of scared people, especially at our level, as he played in the middle and could just move so well. But what jumped out to college coaches as a prospect was, again, he was never on the ground. Like, he just was able to stay on his feet and just had some body control that was different for a kid that was 360 pounds. And that was from the time he started for us in 9th grade on, is that he just was able to control his body with the length that he had and get his hands on people, but stay mobile, and sustain blocks, but then again, maintain blocks and take on double teams on the defensive side as well. And obviously those are things that translate to the next level, especially as he got stronger and he's gotten in better shape, and better conditioned, and not having to play both sides of the ball. He's only gotten more effective there.
Coach, you look at this and the way college football has gone, NIL is all over the place. Transfer portal now is totally different. That's what brought Ian Gifford to the University of Texas in the first place. Your thoughts on, and you see it every day as a high school coach, your thoughts on the state of college football a little bit as it relates to when you have a player like Ian Gifford. Is it working the way it should be, in your opinion, somewhat? I mean, or is it more manipulated or off center, in your opinion? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's both and. Like I think it's a system. You've probably heard guys say it that was necessary and that we were headed towards anyway. I think too many people have gotten involved and too many different parties. So I'd love to see just a little bit more legislation and just some tightening of things. But in regards to a guy like Ian, I mean, he comes from a single parent household, hardworking mother. He's got a younger sister. And so him getting recruited at the time that NIL was getting introduced, we always knew that he was going to have an opportunity to pay for his college and potentially set himself up to have a chance to play beyond college just as an athlete. But to be able to provide and to contribute still back home, I think has been such a gift. And so I think it's a good thing when you start talking about like how manipulative and everything. Because it's become, I think now that it's become a recruiting tool, it's not what it's supposed to be. I think when it was originally pitched as this is a way to compensate the work that's being done, I think that's an awesome thing to offer. I think now that it's something even more to be offered before anything has ever been done by certain athletes, or you're hoping like you're just having to project a little bit more. I think it's probably put people out of a lot of money and also just set these athletes up to disappoint fan bases at times, when there was a time where that wasn't like their play was all that mattered and you had time to develop. Well, now these guys don't have the margin to develop over a couple years and earn the trust and respect of a fan base and even their coaches. Like, you're coming in as a freshman, and if you're making 6 figures, you're expected to contribute right away. And if you're not ready to do that, then you can find somewhere else to go. And there's people that'll start taking guys. And so I think that's where it's gotten twisted a little bit. Is I'd love to see it get scaled back, just so those guys don't have there doesn't have to be so much urgency to see a guy be college ready before they ever step foot on campus. But that's what it's become. Or the guys who aren't college ready, they're not getting the opportunities because the transfer portal is allowing you to take 20-year-olds over 18-year-olds. And I think at some point it's going to start to dry out the pool a little bit.
Hey, Coach, I got to ask you before we let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. So Texas moves to the SEC. You're in Bulldog country there, right? In Georgia, the coach in Georgia, for those that don't know. What is that like? I mean, is there a lot of Texas Georgia talk because they played meaningful games, and Georgia's 3-0, obviously. How much Texas talk do you hear in the
it's hard. I mean, Texas isn't Texas. Texas is the U.S. And so there's Longhorns everywhere. One of my best friends is a Longhorn. And so even before the SEC, you didn't have to look far to find some burnt orange around here. But it's funny. So I'm the offensive coordinator now here at the Mount Vernon School, and I work for Terrence Edwards, who's the all-time leading receiver at Georgia. SEC legend. And so there is also no shortage on just the Bulldog. There's a lot of barking around here too. But no, I think Texas being in the SEC has been awesome. I think when you get some of these sort of blue blood heavyweight programs just competing against each other, whether it's, year in and year out, or just competing for a conference, I think it's good for college football, and it's been awesome. Obviously, being in Georgia, Texas has come in second the last few times, and so it's made it a little better over here. But I have no doubt that Coach Sarkisian, bringing in guys like Ian, he's going to do what it takes to flip this thing around. So we're enjoying it.
Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp.
Will Muschamp. Yep.
Did you have any familiarity with Coach Boom? Coach Muschamp?
His brother actually coaches at one of our neighboring. He's the head coach at Lovett, one of the neighboring private schools here, and so we have a relationship with them. Coach Muschamp, we're going to miss him because he was so hospitable, just as an analyst, like getting to step back and be a little bit more involved and see and speak into Georgia high school football. So we're going to miss having him around here. I know he did a lot for the Dogs too, but you guys got a great one. Like I said, you're making us nervous over here.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your thoughts on your former player, Ian Gerfrard. We wish him nothing but the best of luck in Austin this coming year. Thank you so much, Coach Joyner.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you again for having me.
All right, hook 'em. There you go. Coleman Joyner, former head coach at Whitfield Academy for Ian Gerfrard, and now offensive coordinator there. That's funny. He mentioned Terrence Edwards, Jerry.
Ooh.
This is how old I am. I covered Terrence Edwards recruitment back in the day. So that's a little, unbelievable. But that's good. 6'5", 350 as a seventh grader to eighth grader, he said.
Woo!
What he
That's
felt like.
crazy.
That's probably only been seen only a couple times, maybe in Wortham.
How many? Maybe Wortham with Leonard Davis. How many loaves of bread a day is that?
Oh, gosh.
Seriously.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
And by the way, so on Ian, obviously working out with the team. I had a little report on him on ontexasfootball.com the other day. All the movement skills that Coach was talking about that showed up when you play Arkansas and you're scouting an opponent, and when you watch tape, and then when you study a guy going in the portal, all that's shown up. Obviously, they'd love to get about 20 pounds off of him, but his athleticism is already showing up. And I think the one thing he has, and I should ask coaches, I think he's got a little athletic stamina to him naturally, Bobby. It's hard to play 424 snaps at about 390 pounds, right? He's got some natural athletic stamina to him.
Unless he's been doing it for 10 years already.
Yeah.
If he's been carrying 350 for that long, he might be able to have some of that.
Played some hoops. Yep.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, I liked what Coach Joyner also said about there's got to be some in between here as it relates to NIL, college football. He didn't say the term guardrails, and I don't think he meant guardrails. Limits is a better word, because it makes sure we're doing what's right for the game. And what really hit home for me was the part he was talking about, the pressure these freshmen now feel to do something immediately.
Yep.
Look, they have to earn their keep day one. Now, people can say, well, that's what it's like in the real world, but it's not always that way. There are apprenticeships that come in and you learn and develop over time, right, in the real world. But now, you don't necessarily get that.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the development process that some players absolutely need, by the way. Some don't, but some do. Many do, I think. I thought that was a good answer for a complex problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Measured, very measured.
Yeah. I also, the one thing I just think about with this a lot is I wish the people around these young athletes would help them in one way. when you show up to a college campus and you're a quarterback, and I'm not talking about Texas, and you're ripping around the campus in a $150,000 car out of the gate, right out of the gate, you're adding a lot of pressure to yourself. I mean, that is you're helping yourself in that scenario. You're actually adding a lot more pressure to yourself. I wish there would be some thinking ahead on some situations for some of these kids. It's great that you have that NIL, that number, but you can also add to that pressure that shouldn't actually be there. And whether it's fair or not, if you're rolling around campus in a $150,000 car, that changes opinions. That changes the rope, the length of the rope you get as a football player when all those students and all those fans are sitting in the stands on Saturday. So you're kind of doing it to yourself too, in a way. I appreciate, I just wish the people around these guys, the agents, people would help some of these kids at times to not add to the pressure when they've already got enough.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, it's not, we'll see how that goes, because some just can't help themselves, I think, and they need some guidance. All right, let's say thank you to our sponsor. Every Wednesday is brought to you by our friends over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, and think you might be due compensation, reach out to Adam Lowy and his group over at Lowy Law Firm for a free, no strings attached consultation. That's LowyLawFirm.com. They've been helping injured Texans for 20 years. Adam, thank you for sponsoring Wednesdays on Texas football. Adam also sponsors the state of the program coming up here in a couple of hours. Jerry and I sitting down talking a little Longhorn football again this afternoon.
Bobby, I know you had one thing you wanted to mention, and then we'll get to our other super chat this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Wells, the former Longhorn defensive back out of Beaumont, has bopped around a little bit in the college coaching circles here of late. He is now the recruiting coordinator at the University of Texas officially. He changed his Twitter bio up yesterday to let folks know he had been at Texas State most recently, guys. So congratulations to former Longhorn defensive back Ben Wells, now on staff working underneath Brandon Harris, the general manager at the University of Texas.
Yeah, Ben, obviously part of one of those really good recruiting classes at Texas. I think it's kind of a full circle moment for Ben Wells, because he obviously transferred from Texas, finished his career at SFA, went into high school coaching. He was at Conroe High, I think, in 23-4. Then he went to Texas State and now to Texas. So I think it's a really cool. It's been a really cool kind of full circle moment, I think, for Ben Wells in the last 36, 48 hours. So congrats to him. And while he didn't finish his playing career at Texas, I don't think there's any doubt that what color he burns. It's burnt orange.
All right, guys, we got a super chat here from Terrence. Thank you, Terrence. We appreciate you as always. And Terrence says, hey, Bobby and Jerry, I think this year's running back group will be Sark's most physical yet. How do y'all feel about this group of running backs over his past running backs? Huggle.
I don't know about that, because I feel like the combo of Cedric Baxter when he was healthy and Jonathan Brooks was actually fairly physical for his size. That's why it was the number one draft running back taken in that draft. What do you think about the physicality here? Obviously, I think Derek Cooper brings it, but it's not what Hollywood Smothers or Raleek Brown is known for, Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, here's a question I have. I think it's an interesting question, but we haven't kind of brought this up. So Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown, obviously, are going to be your 1 and 2 backs on this team, and they're going to be different. I think Raleek Brown, I could see a similar role to Jaden Blue. I think he's a better maybe runner naturally than Jaden Blue. I don't want him to be super, super duper physical back, though, because that's not his style. I don't want him to be something he's not. Can Derek Cooper be Rashawn Johnson for this team? Can a young back or a James Simon, can they bring that? And I'm not talking leadership, because Rashawn's the only backup running back I've ever seen that was a team leader. Now, he's a former quarterback. He's a great natural leader. but that was a feat he pulled off that I haven't seen before. But can he bring that type of physicality? Can one of these young backs bring that? I think Derek Cooper is going to have some of that from what I've seen. James Simon ran physically in the chances he had last year. But if you say Raleek Brown, Hollywood Smothers is a physical back, but physicality is not going to be his calling card. His is going to be vision. Raleek Brown's going to be darting, quick moves in a phone book, multiple moves, catches it really well out of the backfield. I think those are going to kind of be their calling cards. To that point, I would love it if one of these young guys you said, ooh, he brings the physicality Roshan brought to the running back position. I think Texas needs that.
Boy, if he would do that as a freshman, that'd be a big thing, Jerry. You just worry, what's he going to do as a freshman, right?
Yep.
Same with Michael Terry. Michael Terry has the size to do that. They do need to Terrence's point. They need a piece of that some which way.
Yeah.
They need some ruggedness. I think that Smothers and Brown do bring some of that naturally because they're both been successful, first of all. But second of all, they realize that even though their quickness and speed are what their X value is and what they really their emphasis value is worth, they realize they have to be tough simultaneously too.
Yeah.
So they're experienced. You know what I mean? We'll see if they are as rugged and as tough as maybe the 24 group, I think, or 23 group with Baxter and Brooks.
All right, y'all. That's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. We want to thank Adam, along with Ridge Wallets, Hollow, Hayes City Store, and Ultra Pouches, all for sponsoring today's show. Of course, also need to thank Coach Joyner, Ted Coy, and Tony Hills, all for joining us today as well. Bobby, what do you have for folks later today?
Well, I mentioned the state of the program. We got that coming up here in a couple of hours. We also have an interview, one-on-one interview, or two-on-one, I guess. Jerry and I sat down with JT Geraci, the tight end out of New Jersey last night for an interview. We'll have that up. What an outstanding young man. I think y'all really enjoy that. And then tonight we have the live stream kicking off around 7 o'clock. If there's any news that breaks, we will be back here at ontexasfootball.com as well as the YouTube channel on Texas Football as well as our podcast. But please join us. Hit the like and subscribe button. I haven't asked for a like and subscribe in a long time, so I'm going to do that tonight or today. Please do that if you would. I appreciate you guys very much. And I also want to say thanks to Ted Coy, Tony Hills, and Coach Coleman Joyner. We had 2 national champions Longhorns on today with Coy and Hills. That's pretty good stuff.
It's hard to do.
Yep.
Well, we hope you all have a tremendous day today. We'll be back tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Welcome, Horns.